Welcome back my dear friends and students. Very good morning, good evening and good afternoon to all of you at whatever time you are listening to these lectures, seeing these lectures. The course title as you know is Multi-Criteria Decision Making, which is an NPTEL MOOC course for 12 weeks spread over 12 weeks with 60 lectures. Each week we have 5 lectures, each being for half an hour. And today we are in the last lecture for the 10th week. So, we will have another 2 weeks of classes or recording which will be shared with you, and then obviously as you know that each week has one assignments, and after the course ends you will have the end sem. So, the broader concepts we are discussing in multi-criteria decision making, we have already gone through multi-objective decision making, utility theory both for the univariate case and the multivariate case, and we are in the process of discussing the different concepts. We have already considered topset method, we are at the fag end of considering the two different ELECTRE method, we are discussing the epsilon, and today we will try to start the other method of the VIKOR. So, what is the coverage? Coverage is the last portions for epsilon ELECTRE, and we will consider the VIKOR method. The concepts would remain the same, but the way of handling the problems would be different. Concepts means in the topsis method it was NIS, PIS, shortest distance to the positive solutions and shortest distance to the negative solution. Then in the epsilon concept or the ELECTRE concept we considered the concordance discordance. In the epsilon we are considering concordance discordance and the indifferent concept, and VIKOR we would have another different ways of trying to handle the problem. So, continuing with the last lecture which is the 49th one, today being the 50th one. So, we will determine the cutoff values, star values based on concordance, then based on indifference and then based on discordance. Concordance concept will give us the ranking, if we are able to consider the ranking based on only the positive values. Discordance matrix and then the cutoff values which are the star values will give us the ranking based only on the negative concept, and indifference would be that we are indifferent between the alternatives. Now, why we are doing that? Because collectively you will take the concordance, discordance and indifference and then rank them, because as I said and I am again repeating, for taking any decisions on the alternatives, it comes with a positive as well as with a negative baggage also, and negative baggages have to be considered, because if the negative worth of taking a decision is too high, then obviously people or the decision maker would not be interested in taking that decision. So, based on this I have for the case when we are considering the indifference one, the values for when I am trying to compare, the comparison is always, remember, based on the alternatives. When I am comparing 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. So, I have the concordance and discordance matrix is given. Again the principal diagonal is 0 and the cutoffs based on which I consider are given here, because all the detailed comparison for the concordance had been done, discussed in the last class and in the other classes also. So, I will just give the values and summarize the results at the end. So, we determine the aggregate dominance, indifference and non-dominance matrices, or consider the concordance, indifference and discordance matrices, which will denote by ECC, which is the concordance plus the concordance matrix. ECI means the concordance plus the indifference matrix. So, I will highlight it. The words are highlighted in red, but I will particularly highlight the color where concordance would be done with green, indifference will be done with blue and discordance will be done by red. So, let me do it. Concordance would be done with green, This is also concordance. The indifference would be done by blue and discordance will be done by red. So, we are comparing positive to positive, positive to indifference and positive to negative, and for that we just multiply the corresponding cell values as calculated previously. Now, when we go into the indifference comparison, considering the indifference again the subclass, again you use the same coloring concept of green being concordance and indifference being blue and discordance being red. So, what we are doing? We are comparing indifference with concordance, indifference with indifference and indifference with discordance. And when I am marking it, just note that the corresponding cell values would be multiplied accordingly. So, if I go back to the last slide, it is F C of K L, that means for the concordance, F C K L for the concordance indifferent. So, the first one concordance and concordance and similarly for concordance discordance. The concepts are analyzed. Similarly, it is the indifference F I K L, F I K L, F I K L, and what is being multiplied is here. I will highlight in this slide and then go back to the other slides. So, it was indifference here, and if I consider the concordance, we come multiplying with the concordance corresponding cells from the matrix, then the indifference concept being multiplied for the second case. So, that is why it is blue into blue and last being blue into red. And if I go back to the last slide, even though I have marked in black, that was just draw your attention. So, let me erase it and make it absolutely clear like the last slide which I did. So, it is concordance. So, it is green in color, concordance, concordance, concordance. This is also concordance. This is indifferent. So, it will be blue and red will be discordance. So, we will multiply the corresponding, again I am repeating the cell values for the corresponding matrices. Finally, when we have determined the dominant or indifference and non-dominant matrices based on the aggregate of discordance, the coloring scheme again we remains the same: discordance, discordance, discordance. This is concordance, this is indifferent and this is discordance. So, what do we do? Again multiply the corresponding cell values for those corresponding matrices, and the matrices what are they? They are based on the discordance here, discordance here, discordance here, and discordance for the first case is being multiplied with the concordance. For the second case is being multiplied with the indifference, and for the third case is being multiplied by again by the discordance. So, if I look carefully, for the concordance positive one we have divided into liking, concordance, indifferent and discordance. Again for the indifference again divided into concordance, indifferent, discordance, and finally, for the discordance one we have again divided into concordance, indifference and discordance. Now, why this? It means that taking the positive value concordance, we are trying to be much more logical, much more decisive in the micro level in order to find out those alternatives where positive is always on the higher side, which is concordance, concordance. When we are taking the positive and we are indifferent, it is basically concordance and indifference, and in the last case it is concordance with the differences or the discordance. Similarly, we do it for the other level of classification of indifference and discordance. Based on that, when we finally find out this, when you are multiplying, these are the values which you multiply. So, we get the concordance with concordance, see here marked as green, concordance with indifferent and concordance with discordance, which we have already discussed. When we multiply them, so if you see it just, so this symbol operator is just a simple case of multiplication, any other operation can be used. So, if I check the values, I will use now the black color. So, black color to highlight the final value. So, the final value is 1. From where are we getting 1? It is coming from here. Concordance being multiplied to give a value of 1. If I consider the value of indifference, which is the second one, concordance indifference, this value of 1 and the value of indifference being 0 results in the value of 0. 0 means here, which I would highlight by black. So, that means even if it concordance, the overall value comes out to be indifferent. And finally, when I consider concordance with the value of discordance, the value is like this: concordance green, discordance red, and the value is 1. Now, do not take this 1 as total discordance. Along the set where we have concordance, there is obviously some values which are negative. So, I have taken that and then trying to find a compromise. So, based on that, I am still positive. That means, I have taken the decision, I have a value of concordance, but there is a values of discordance also, but still I am positive in taking that decision. Now, when I do the aggregate dominance, indifference and this discordance matrix based on indifference, which I will highlight, indifference being blue. So, indifference, 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 second one is also indifference, the first one is concordance, hence green, and the last one is discordance and red. Again the same values on the indifference set. So, based on that, when I try to find out, so indifference being 0, concordance being under that, concordance being 1, the overall value when I multiply comes out to be 0. That means, on the indifference set I would still be indifference, because that dominates. Similarly, all the values can be found out. Finally, when I try to go for the indifference, discordance, 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 the last one is also discordance with discordance. This is concordance, concordance means positive, is green and this is blue. So, if I consider the cell values, this is discordant, this is concordant, and the final value is 1. Now, do not look at 1 as positive. In the other case, so it was a subclass. In the case primary class was concordance, then discordance. Here the primary class is discordance, then concordance. So, 1 means here, which I have highlighted in black, means that another class of discordance is still giving me, in spite of the fact I am trying to pull in some benefits, still the disbenefit is much more. In the other case, when we are considering the concordance matrices, the primary class was concordance. So, under that I tried to find out the negative benefits, but the negative benefits were not overwhelming, hence concordance still prevails. So, now the idea, sorry I skipped to the other slide. Now, the idea comes that how do we would we be ranking. So, here is some discussion I would like to have, and I will write down the matrix and discuss it accordingly one by one. So, I will create a blank slide, write down the values and discuss. So, this is the blank slide I have created. So, let me go back one by one. So, this one. So, it is C C. So, I will take is basically 1 0 1 0 0 1. So, this was matrix of E C C, which was this one 1 0 1 0 0 1, and I want to consider I have indifference of all being 0. So, if I consider all being 0, E of I C and finally, it will be D C, discordance and concordance. So, this is 1 0 1 0 0 0. So, if I have on the level of concordance and positive, indifference positive and discordance positive, positive is what I am using for the concordance. So, if I consider A1, A2, A3. So, let us consider on the level of the concept of positive values. So, positive values, if I take positive with I am considering A1 and A2 only. So, this value is 1. So, on that frame it is positive. So, I put a +1 here and I put a dash here. Comparing A1 A2, when I compare indifference and concordance, it is dash dash. So, dash I am considering, let us consider A1 only, I should not have marked A2. A2 I am comparing, but it is dash. Then when I consider A1 and A2 on the negative scale, it is 1. So, in the discomfort level, even though I have brought concordance, it is still 1. So, this will be negative. Now, if I consider A2 to A1, A2 to A1 would be here. So, it is positive, A2 to A1 on the indifference region, it is dash, is 0, and when I consider this on the level, it is negative. Sorry, this color is so. Can any direct comparison be made between A1 A2 on the concordance set? No. If I consider the level of consider I am consider A3 and A2. So, on the level of A3 and A2, first let us consider A2 with A3. So, A2 to A3, it is does not accrue any benefit. So, it is 0. So, it is dash on the positive scale ECC. Then A2 to A3 again indifference 0, and this benefit A2 to A3 is 0. Now, when I consider A3 to A2, this is 1, see this value. So, there is definitely a benefit. If I consider on EIC scale, it is 0. And when I consider EDC, that means dominant discordance and concordance, A3 to A2, it is again 0. Now, see the difference. In the other case, comparing A1 and A2 on this concordance, indifferent concordance and discordance concordance, we could not pass any judgment. When I consider A2 to A3, on the disbenefit scale, whether you take A2 or A3, you cannot pass any comments convincingly. So, they would be disbenefit, to what level we do not know. On the indifference scale also we do not know, but on the positive scale A3 is always better than A2. So, if I consider on the concordance concept, the benefit which accrues for A3 with respect to A2 is always positive. Now, I have not finished. The question would be immediately one of the set of students or the participants who are taking this course would immediately ask the question that can we pass a judgment like this when we are considering indifference concordance, indifference and indifferent discordance. Can such a judgment passed? Yes, it can be passed. Also, let me highlight, such a judgment can also be passed when you are considering the discordance concordance, discordance indifference and discordance discordant matrix also. So, conglomerated one, the overall idea which you will get by considering ECC, EIC, EDC, then consider that concept. So, it should be EDC, I think it is ECD, sorry my mistake, this is ECD, with concordance being the primary one. So, we have done the ranking based on first ECC with EC, just 1 minute, okay, this was similarly. We have considered EIC and EDC, then we will consider next level, we will consider EC, ECI, EII and EDI. Similarly, in the third level, we will consider EDC, EDI and EDD. ICDC, CI, IIDI, we will consider the concept of CD CD, then ID, and finally DD. So, we will have one ranking based on the first level, second ranking based on the second level, and third level. We will compare them and then final the judgment. The one which you are seeing A2 and A3 was based on the first level of ranking only. Now, if I, so obviously, in this cases no such judgment can be passed. So, let me do it for the case of this one E23 based on of ECI. So, let me change it. ECI, EII and EDI, which is the second case. So, let us fill up these cells. So, let me erase them. The principal diagonal remains dash, 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 dash. So, let us fill up ECI. ECI values are all zeros. Let us fill the values of EII. 0 1 0 0 1 0. So, this is the value 0 1 0 0 1 0, 0 1 0 0 1 0, 0 1 0 0 1 0. So, let us see, I have copied it correctly, 0 1 0 0 1 0. Finally, being EDI is all zeros. So, EDI is this one is all zeros. Let us compare. So, this was the comparison which I have done based on the positive scale. So, let us do it for indifference one. Only concentrate on A2 and A3. So, when I consider A2 and A3 based on indifference being an important concept. So, it will be A2 and A3 is dash with respect to. So, on the indifference scale A2 to A3 is again a dash, A2 to A3 again a dash. If I consider A3 to A2, it is a dash, dash means they are the values. So, A3 A2 dash, A3 A2 dash, A3 A2 dash, which means in difference concept I am balanced. Positive 1 is still a positive factor for A3. Finally, I will take few minutes more, even though the class may exceed 30 minutes plus please. So, I have done this. So, now coming to the final part. Okay. So, it is ECD now. So, let me write down the values ECD. So, it is 1 0 1 0 0 0, 1 0 1 0 0 0. So, this is CD. So, let us double check 1 0 1 0 0 0 done. Next will come EID. EID is all zeros. and finally EDD 101100 101100. So, let us concentrate on A23. So, if I consider A23, A2 to A3, so A2 to A3 is 0, here A2 to A3 again 0, A2 to A3, now it is a, if you see here A2, A3 0, A2, A3, so this is a negative one. So, you can definitely put a negative sign here, because this is based on DD, discordance, discordance. If I consider A32, 32 is basically 0, 32 is 0, 32 is 0. Now, see the interesting part. If I compare, so this can be removed. If I compare this set and with this set, interesting observations comes out. A3 wins both the ways. Positive side, A3 is positive, on the negative side A2 would basically give a disbenefit. So, it is always better to take A3 both on the difference, concordance and the discordance set. A3 is winning. In difference, it was all balanced. So, similar analysis can be done between A1, A3, A1, A2 and so on and so forth. So, I only dealt with two alternatives in all the stages. So, this idea should be clear to you. Sorry, I took a little bit long because I wanted to finish the epsilon ELECTRE accordingly. Thank you very much and have a nice day.